Welcome to my latest dark history and hauntings video, and today's video is on the infamous Lizzie Borden murder house. Because in August 1892, the Borden family was brutally murdered in their home. In this video, we'll delve into the gruesome details of the Borden family murders and explore the reported hauntings that continue to intrigue and scare visitors to this day. So, firstly let me tell you about the legendary Lizzie Borden, who was born on July 19, 1860, in Fall River, Massachusetts to Sarah Anthony and Andrew Jackson Borden. Her dad Andrew grew up with limited resources and struggled to make ends meet, until he hit the jackpot with furniture and casket making. He also dabbled in property development and even owned multiple textile mills and commercial properties. This man had his hand in many pies. His pockets seemed to be lined with gold. At the time of his death, his estate was worth $300,000, which would be equivalent to a whopping $10 million today. Despite having money to burn, Andrew was known for being so stingy with his spending. I mean, this guy wouldn't even shell out for indoor plumbing in his Fall River house. Lizzie and her older sister Emma had a fairly religious upbringing and were part of several religious groups in the area. About 3 years after Lizzie's mother Sarah had passed away, her father Andrew Borden tied the knot with Abby Gray. Lizzie tried to establish a relationship with her new stepmother, but instead of calling her Mum, she opted for Mrs. Borden, which seems all a bit formal to me. Anyway, as time passed, Lizzie became convinced that Abby had only married her father for his wealth. Even the housemaid, Maggie, spilled the tea that the girls hardly ever ate with their parents, and things had been heating up for months before the gruesome murders. Apparently, Andrew had been showering Abby's family with gifts of real estate while giving Lizzie and Emma nothing. The sisters were fed up and demanded some property of their own, which Andrew eventually gave them the house they were already living in. Then the night before the murders, John Morse, Lizzie's uncle and brother of the late Sarah Borden, paid Andrew a visit to discuss business matters. Some people think their chat about a property transfer gone awry might have just added fuel to some already simmering tensions between them. John stayed overnight in the guest room. The next morning, after breakfast, Andrew and John retreated to the sitting room again, this time for a friendly chat that lasted nearly an hour. And at around 8:48 a.m., John said his goodbyes to buy a pair of oxen, with plans to return to the Borden household around noon. Andrew, on the other hand, left for his usual morning walk around 9 a.m.
Now, usually, Lizzie or Emma would be responsible for cleaning the guest room, but for some reason, Abby decided to take on the task herself sometime between 9 a.m. and 10:30 a.m. Sadly, this would prove to be a fatal mistake. According to forensic evidence, Abby was facing her killer when the vicious attack occurred. The first blow came from a hatchet to the side of her head, which caused her to turn and fall face down onto the floor. But the killer wasn't done yet, delivering 17 more brutal blows to the back of her head, until she drew her last breath. As the morning sun crept higher in the sky, Andrew returned from his usual walk around 10:30 a.m. But when he tried to open the door, his key failed him. He began knocking, and when the housemaid Maggie went to answer, she found the lock had jammed. In frustration, Maggie let out a curse, and to her horror, she heard giggling coming from the second floor. Although she didn't see Lizzie, Maggie testified that the laughter was coming from upstairs, where Abby lay dead in the guest room. This was significant, because anyone on the second floor would have easily spotted Abby's lifeless body. Later on, Lizzie denied being upstairs during the trial, but the eerie incident remained in the minds of those who heard about it. Lizzie claimed that she then helped her father remove his boots and slip on some comfy house shoes before he stretched out on the sofa for a nap. However, this story was quickly debunked by crime scene photos, which showed Andrew's body sprawled on the couch with his boots still on. Lizzie then suggested to Maggie that she head into town for a sale, but Maggie was feeling under the weather and decided to stay put instead. She retired to her room for a nap, oblivious to the horrors that would soon unfold. Maggie recounted during her testimony that she was taking a much-needed rest in her third-floor bedroom when just before 11:10 a.m. She heard Lizzie's panicked cry from downstairs, "Maggie, come quick. Father's dead, someone came in and killed him." Rushing down the stairs, Maggie discovered Andrew slumped over the couch in the sitting room, his body brutally attacked with a hatchet 10 to 11 times. The sight of his eyeball split in two indicated that he had likely been sleeping at the time of the assault. The fact that he was still bleeding when Maggie found him indicated that the attack had occurred only moments earlier. With Andrew's murderer still on the loose, the question remained, where could the murderer have gone? So fast, unheard and unseen. Initially, Liz's statements to the police were perplexing and conflicting. She first claimed to have heard scraping and groaning noises, but later, when questioned again, denied hearing anything. Lizzie also claimed that her stepmother had left to visit a sick friend after receiving a note. When asked about Abby's whereabouts, Lizzie suggested that someone go upstairs to check if she had returned home. Maggie, the housemaid, and a neighbor named Mrs. Churchill went upstairs and discovered Abby's body lying face down on the floor of the guest room. Despite Liz's odd behavior, some police officers found her to be too composed, and her lack of emotional response raised suspicion. However, the police failed to conduct a proper investigation, as they did not check Lizzie or her clothing for blood stains. They also failed to thoroughly search her room, as Lizzie claimed she was feeling unwell and wanted to rest, which led to criticism of their negligence. Police discovered 2 hatchets in the basement of the house, one of which had a broken handle that appeared to have been deliberately covered with ash and dust to make it look older. It was suspected to be the murder weapon. The family's milk and the contents of Andrew and Abby's stomachs were tested for poison due to the random onset of illness before the murders, but all tests came back negative. That night, officers kept watch over the house in case the killer returned to finish off the rest of the family. One officer claimed to have seen Lizzie and a friend enter the cellar carrying an oil lamp and a slop pail, and later saw Lizzie over the sink. A few days later, when Lizzie was informed she was a suspect in the murders, the mayor visited and found her tearing up a dress and burning it, claiming it had been ruined with paint. That's not at all suspicious, is it? Lizzie was eventually brought to trial and faced accusations that she had been motivated to kill her father and stepmother due to abuse from her author, as her stepmother watched on and did nothing. I'm not sure where these allegations came from, but that's the motive the police believed caused Lizzie to commit the murderers. But despite an extensive trial, Lizzie was acquitted of all charges, even though Lizzie had told lies about taking her dad's shoes and a few other things. They just didn't have enough evidence, so she was released. At the time of his death, Andrew Borden's estate was estimated to be worth around $300,000, which is equivalent to several $1 million in today's currency. His assets included properties such as his home on 92 2nd Street, various rental properties, stocks and bonds, and personal property such as furniture, jewelry, and other valuable items. After his death, his estate was divided between his 2 daughters, Lizzie and Emma Borden, who each inherited half of his assets. Well played, Lizzie, if it was you. However, the sisters' relationship was strained after the trial, probably because she murdered her dad. The sisters went their separate ways. Lizzie eventually dies at the age of 66 from pneumonia. The Lizzie Borden House now operates as a fully functional bed and breakfast, attracting guests from all over the country. For those brave enough, they can choose to stay in the infamous Lizzie Suite, complete with the very bed that she slept in. However, be warned, reports from guests have included spectral cats, self-rocking rocking chairs, and even sightings of Lizzie herself, who reportedly haunts the home to this day. Legend has it that Lizzie's ghost even chokes guests that dare to lay in her bed. The dining room table, where guests enjoy their meals, is the very same table on which Abby and Andrew were autopsied. Visitors have captured eerie photos of strange anomalies floating by their beds, heard noises coming from inside wardrobes, and felt footsteps and laughter, just like Lizzie's on the morning of the murders. Some brave souls have even reported being touched by an unseen hand while they slept. Andrew and Abby are also said to still roam the rooms of the high use. So just the place for a quiet, relaxing getaway. According to an employee, She was either house making the bed in the room where Abby was murdered when she suddenly felt a chill and heard footsteps behind her. When she turned around, she saw a woman in a long dress standing in the doorway. The woman looked at her for a moment before disappearing into thin air. The employee described the woman as having a stern expression and wearing an old-fashioned dress, similar to what Abby would have worn. She also noted that the woman seemed to be glowing, and her presence left a strange feeling in the room. A guest who stayed in the John Morse room. According to the guest, they woke up in the middle of the night to the feeling of someone sitting on the edge of the bed. When they opened their eyes, they saw the figure of a man with a beard sitting there. The guest quickly turned on the light, but the figure was gone. The guest reported feeling uneasy the rest of the night, and even took a picture of the empty bed to prove to themselves that they were not imagining things. When they looked at the picture later, they claimed to see the faint outline of a person sitting on the bed. All in all, this house seems like a really creepy place to visit, but if you are brave enough, you can take a tour, or even stay the night. I hope you enjoy this video, and if you have any suggestions for any other videos, let me know in the descriptions below. Thanks for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.